Hello, welcome to individuaLIST. We're on a new episode today, and joining me, I have Sreshtha. A lot of you already know her if you have been watching these episodes. She's been on an episode before. She's a poet, and she is my best friend. And we are today going to talk about one of our favorite authors again. One of our favorite childhood authors, Enid Blyton. So, thank you for joining me, Shrestha, and for agreeing to be nostalgic.
Yeah, there seems to be a pattern in our episodes where we just talk about childhood favorites and how much they disappointed us as adults. Yes,
What are the Enid Blyton books that you remember reading, and what did you like about them?
good question. Because I think we both have so many of our books still. I mean, I obviously don't have them here, but I know you brought them out about. Um, I think obviously the first few Enid Blyton books I read were a lot of the collected stories. Like it would be like the Magic Teapot and other stories.
Yeah.
um, but I think that was exactly what the first one was called, and it took me a long time to realize or marvel at like how my entire from age say like 6 to 8 or whatever 6 to 10, not 10 maybe don't let people know I read it in 9 to 10. So I think like a huge, at least 3 years of my entire childhood was just Enid Blyton books. And I
Yeah.
never for a second in my stupid brain thought, wow, this woman's written all of these books. Um, but a few of the ones that I really remember are obviously all the boarding school series because they
Yeah.
kind of, I went to a boarding school, and it was absolutely not the same in all ways, which was a huge disappointment for me at 11. Um, so I remember the naughtiest girl because I think the premise of it really attracted me, even though it's not something I personally would ever do or did. But I just, I enjoyed the series, I enjoyed the characters, and that was one of the first series of Enid Blyton I read, I think. So um, it was too early on for me to start detecting any sort of pattern, so it was still original for me.
When you were a kid and when you were reading these books, did the sex like obviously we didn't notice the sexism or the racism because
Yeah,
we were too young. It might have
yeah,
struck us as a little odd or a little like whatever, but it's not something that we would have actively articulated, but it
yeah,
might have affected us in various ways.
definitely.
Like
You're
I
right,
know it
you're
did
right.
affect me because uh, like when I started reading Famous Five, I got the first whatever book I was reading, and my brother told me that his favorite character was George, and I started reading it with the idea that oh, I must really like George because I was also at that age where I liked everything my brother liked,
Right, right.
and I started reading it and I was like, oh, so yeah, it's cool to want to be a boy. And for a long time, I was always pretending that I'm a guy, and like I always wanted to have males. I had
You
no.
too?
Yes. So yeah, so like in the sense that like I couldn't for a long time I couldn't really understand that what she was portraying with George or with Anne was just wrong.
Yeah,
Um, so that I think it did affect me that way. So
definitely.
was there any such thing with you?
Yes, definitely. And I think that's another reason I revisit it maybe more infrequently than I would in under different circumstances. But definitely, and I think about that a lot, and I think we talk about that a lot about how dangerous like how powerful and alternatively dangerous children's books can be, right? Because this is like these are some of the first books we're reading. It kind of sets a pattern going. People we look up to ignore it or don't see it in the same
Yeah.
way, which kind of clouds our vision of it. And then for me, I mean, honestly, I probably could not have articulated the that or named sexism or like misogyny till maybe much
For
like way
sure.
older than I
Yeah.
should have been. Yeah, and so it just sits uncomfortably with you, but you can't name the discomfort. Um, and then yeah,
Yeah.
I will always, and there's always these parts. Do you remember? Well, I think both of our favorite Enid Blyton is the same, which I always somehow forget is Enid Blyton, but it's the Six Cousins, right?
Oh yeah, I love Six
Yeah,
Cousins.
yeah, I thought so. And I remember feeling so horrible every time they yelled at that sister to like be more girly or cut her nails. And then they
Yeah,
were like,
yeah.
"You so filthy." I'm like, but those are two different things. She can like shower, but she doesn't have to not wear pants. I don't understand.
Yeah, yeah, with
So
Jane. Like
yeah,
I
Jane.
really liked Six Cousins, and it's
Yeah,
one of the books I revisit more often.
yeah,
But like that whole incident, it just makes me so uncomfortable, and it has like a
yeah.
very kuch kuch hota hai element to it because the guy,
Yes,
the
definitely.
the pretty girl, and then she turns pretty, and she like
Yeah. That guy
basically.
is a douchebag. I'm like, stay away.
How much of reading Enid Blyton do you think influenced your reading later? Like your reading
That's a
tastes?
good question. Um, Immensely. I think two things definitely influence me in sometimes weird ways. And we speak about this a lot where I said when growing up, we didn't have young adult literature, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, it was like Enid Blyton. And then
It
there
was
was this
Enid
gap.
Blyton and then Suitable Boy. It was literally
Exactly.
Enid Blyton
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
Suitable Boy because I
Yeah.
remember for me boarding school was Mallory Towers and then I read Suitable Boy where this guy goes to a school where he's like this abuse and I'm just like okay I
True
don't want to go.
story. One of those is a true story though. But yeah, I know. And that's exactly it. It's for. I mean, it's like I think I describe it as no, like Enid Blyton and then To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't. There was. I think I felt a significant gap in my like middle school years where I was just like,
But you still
and
read books like Inkheart and like I remember
oh
you
yeah,
speaking about that. And
yeah.
I
I
missed that whole thing completely.
Yeah. Shout out to my mother who helped me discover there were things beyond Enid Blyton. But yeah, I think in that way it influenced me in the sense that I clung on to Enid Blyton for a lot longer and then kind of in a way I think it's why I gravitate towards fan fiction now. I think it's like comforting in the same ways Enid Blyton used to be in that when we were reading Enid Blyton, I didn't care about the writing style, the plot narrative, the arc. I was just like, oh, it's gonna end well. There's some kind of mystery sometimes, and look at these kids having fun. And with fanfic, it allows me to be I think Enid Blyton is the reason I'm a lot more accepting of like bad writing. I will say I think Enid Blyton is the primary reason I started writing short stories growing up, and is
Yeah,
also,
same.
unfortunately, the reason all my protagonists had British names for the longest
Same,
time.
same. Okay. Do you want to go into the list of like your favorite characters? We want to books because it's also difficult, and then there are series, and then you can't pick like a best one from
Specific
the series
one,
because they're
yeah,
all the same
yeah,
essentially.
yes, definitely. Yeah, I want to do characters that'll be fun, and I should preface. So now looking back, when I'm picking my top five characters, I've realized very few characters are fully likable. So I should say that when I say top five, I don't mean that I love the people they are so much. I just think they are the ones I remember for a reason. And like, top, I guess they're the most memorable and like the most fleshed out or like important to the story for me.
Fair.
Mine is actually George from Famous Five still.
George.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Am I not remembering something problematic?
Something. I mean,
Am I?
we've discussed George already, and
Yeah,
we know
yeah.
what was problematic about it.
But
So,
what was so that's my thing. I think what was problematic, and this is the fanfic reader in me, is that I don't think she was given enough. Uh, I don't think she was written in a way she deserved. I think there were
yeah,
ways to the character George was so interesting to me, and there could have been ways Enid Blyton could have approved of that, or
yeah.
you know,
But I
uh,
also feel that there was no way she would have written the
oh yeah,
character
yeah,
that you
yeah.
want
I know,
now
yeah,
for a
exactly.
7-year-old child in 1940. Like, that is,
Okay, wait,
it's not happening.
is it too much to ask for one queer
I
Enid
think so,
Blyton
yeah. I
character?
think it is too much to ask.
I think one thing Enid Blyton clearly had some problems in her personal life, which we know, but it's also clear in the way that everyone's like fatal flaw is a temper. and and I really appreciated it in George rather than Daryl's. Daryl's is just like suddenly she'd explode.
Yeah, yeah, and go around
But
slapping people.
yeah. Oh God, I forgot about that. But George was kind of fascinating, kind of stubborn in a way children deserve to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And of all the famous five, I liked her the most.
yeah. Same.
Hated
I
all the
think she was the
men.
most relatable also.
This is what I wanted to tell you. Did you know that every person called Dick in the Enid Blyton books have been changed to Rick now?
Oh,
And I
wow.
think this is just in the US, but everyone called Fanny has been changed to Franny.
Oh, wow.
So they're like, oh, kids are learning who Dick could be
Wow.
younger than when we
Wow.
were.
I did
Yeah.
not know this.
Um, Patrick from Naughtiest Girl.
Oh, yeah. I remember
Okay,
Patrick.
yeah, so here's the thing. I remember Patrick so clearly for so many reasons. First of
Yeah.
all, he's the only person described in the books who I thought was remotely good looking. Um,
But he
he
looks
had a
exactly like Julian, his cousin. So did you find
no, but
Julian?
he's like he's just there's something more about he plays whatever he I think he plays tennis. Yeah, he plays tennis. He's more fiery than Julian, which I already like. Julian was like just there a lot of time in my
Not
memory.
really, like he
In
was.
my yeah,
Anyway.
I know. The reason I remember him is because I might be also because I think the book he comes in on is the second. I didn't read them in order, so I think that's the second Naughtiest Girl I ever read. Um, but
It's the last
also,
one in the series.
of course, it is. Wait, really? That can't be true
So
because
with no, I'll tell you, with Naughtiest Girl, Enid Blyton only wrote 4 books, and
right.
they were all set
No,
in.
five
No,
books.
she only wrote
No,
4 books. Wait, let me finish. She wrote 4 books, and they are all of Elizabeth in the first form. Like,
yeah,
there is no, like, she doesn't go to second form or anything, unlike the others where they grow
yeah,
from
yeah,
being
yeah,
in first form to sixth form.
yeah.
And then someone called Anne Digby wrote continuations. So everything else is not canon.
That explains so much. Whips, my childhood has been a lie. Wait, do you
and
remember the
and
fifth book?
I don't know which one is the 5th book because the Anne Digby ones don't know in order. But I feel like, are you talking about the one where there's a head girl campaign?
No, but I remember that. No, I
Yeah,
haven't. I don't know if I've read that. But there's a book where she's taking care. Okay, please don't crash my world. There is this book where she's taking care of someone's lettuces because they in the hospital because of her. Do you remember this?
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's the fifth book. And then she finds out that he's had a really sad life. His dad had an accident over the summer, and
yeah. I
uh,
remember this. I remember this. I think this was Anne Digby.
oh my
I'll try to
God,
find.
that explains so much because Patrick is a sweetheart in that one. Oh my God. One of the reasons Patrick is so memorable to me is because literally, this is the only time when even as a kid I was like, there's something there. There's like some tension. But there's never any,
Of
obviously, any
course.
mention of that in any other books. But that's the only time when it's like, I was like, oh, this could be something.
Patrick is
Uh,
also the one who's he's the only one who comes and says, I don't want to go to a school where there are women as monitors.
yeah. Oh, shit. I forgot about
Like this
that.
is literally his first line.
Oh my God, I have to scratch him out. Maybe he won't be on my list after this. That
But
I had
I mean,
forgotten.
come on, a lot of 11-year-old boys, really.
And then he
They're,
does change his mind because then he looks up to Elizabeth.
yeah, yeah.
So growth that you
Of
don't see
course,
in
there
real
is
life.
growth, and like they
Yeah.
become friends also,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
at the end of it, he
And
enjoys that
maybe
school.
more than friends
Maybe
as
not
they
at
grow.
11, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, as they
So,
grow older. Yeah. Susie, Jack's sister from Secret Seven, was very, very
yeah,
relatable. Like, I know they were always kind of painting her as annoying or interfering, but she had excellent taste. She always asked for the better gifts, and then the Secret Seven people would be like, "Oh, we want this, not Jack's stupid gift." Um, and she just wanted to be a part of her brother's friends, like secretly, very, very
yeah,
secretly, because she did not communicate them well. But I really found her relatable, and some of my favorite parts of that series where she was a part of the action. Um, and she dressed up as Jack once to enter their secret meeting. And I think in a book with 7 characters, so many of them got lost or like weren't fleshed out. So it was really fascinating to me that the side character was so much more interesting than say Colin or
yeah,
so this is more like a
yeah.
special shout out to the Saucepan Man, who was a poet ahead of his time. And was just like pure comic relief, existed very well in this world, had no reason to do what he was doing, and would like create so much chaos just because he couldn't hear things um,
Yeah.
over his saucepans. But yeah, I think if I feel fond of someone in those books, it's Saucepan Man.
He was just the one always creating confusion and like typical Enid Blyton trope of having that one person who's just like
Exactly. Yeah.
always getting into some scrape.
Exactly. But for a change, not, he was not, it wasn't a racist, it wasn't racist reason or sexist reasons. He was just a man who was kind of eccentric.
Do you remember like any of the lands that they visited? Like, was that anyone that you would want to visit?
Oh, um, yes, I think there was one which was maybe holiday themed. I think it was like a Christmas land or present land, and you just
There
had
was a land
to.
of gifts, land of
Yes,
presents,
land
something
of
of that
gifts.
sort.
You
Yeah,
had to like imagine what you wanted and you in the
and you
box,
could
and
only buy
then
it for somebody. Like you had to
yes,
give the present. You
yes,
could buy it for
yeah.
yourself.
And of course, their like cousin or whatever was
Yeah,
like trying
dig.
to, yeah, Dick was almost like she was trying to tell us something, but he was like he couldn't do it because he didn't have a generous heart or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Love that, yeah, sappy
I
taste.
love the land of birthdays,
Oh
where they
yeah,
go to celebrate, I think, Bessie's birthday, and then there's a
yeah,
feast, and
yeah,
then they birthday games, and that was really, I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
anything to do with.
One person I used to find really amusing is Gwendolyn
Mary
Mary, I
Douglas,
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
Gwendolyn
from
Mary Lacey.
yes, Gwendolyn Mary Lacey from Mary Jazz, where I was just like, for a long time, I was like, what is the root of this problem? Like, what is going on? She just misses home. And I think her arc was really satisfying, of course, in a very moralistic way, but
Yeah,
tied up
yeah.
some loose ends. That was the fine. Like, she did not improve till the last book. Um, but also I had a soft spot for her because my mom would threaten me every time like she left me at Mayo to be like Gwendolyn's mom. Like, she'd be like, I'm gonna get out my handkerchiefs, I'm gonna start crying in the middle of the courtyard. And so it is more like, I think I remember her so strongly because of the like inside joke my mom and I have about her. And just was the only part of Mallory Task that I was actually terrified would happen in real life in boarding school. So yeah. Gwendolyn's problems were more that she would just not do the same things as the rest. Of course, she was she was a narc too. Don't think I forget that. Like, I know she did a lot of egregious things,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was fascinated, and I think one thing it showed in the books is this like mentality of like us as kids. Like, there was this kind of relief. Now, this is me reading into Mallory Task,
Yeah.
but it's always fascinating to see how quickly kids like gang up on anyone just because there's this kind of relief where they like rather her than me, um, and yeah. So,
Or
and I
they gang
think
up on someone who's just like really like there's not much difference between them.
exactly, yeah. And I remember I felt very sad in some parts because there would always be a new student, and I think Gwendolyn would try to be their friend.
Yeah.
And then like the other kids would be like, "Oh, now that you are a nice person, you should join us rather than be friends with Gwendolyn." Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, uh, yeah. Who would you clearly put?
Um, so I think one person I keep coming back to is Barney from the Barney mystery books. I don't know if you ever read them.
I don't
Uh,
know.
so they were it was basically a series of books where there was a monkey called Miranda, if that
Oh
helps.
yeah, I read them. There was a roller. There was a circus one.
Yes.
Ringer. Yeah.
There was a Ringer Bells mystery and there was a Rillaby Fair mystery.
Yes. Yes.
And Barney was basically the circus boy who had been like
Yes.
his mother had died and the father
Yes.
didn't really
Yes.
exist or something, and then they meet the father, and then he has like a civilized life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I found Barney fascinating because he was very different from the usual characters.
Yeah.
And like when Enid Blyton spoke a lot about the not upper class characters, they were all like you could tell that they were different. Like ethically, they were different, and their moral
Hmm.
different. But Barney was he was well read, and he
Yeah.
wanted a better person, and he sort of wanted to rise above his circumstances,
Yeah.
and I found that really fascinating. And the fact that he was just doing the best that he could. He had to work at a young age and everything, but
Yeah.
even then, like he just desperately wanted to know more and
Hmm.
see more and be educated, and that it really appealed to me then. So I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely someone
That's a good one. Yeah. I think food is such an important part of everything we read. Because when I was a kid, when I started reading Fecal 7, I got really invested in it. I was like, ooh, that sounds so good. Like, I was like egg roll, like Kolkata roll. What are they eating? And then asked my mom, and she told me, no, they just mean dinner rolls, like bread. And my world, I was like, why are they so excited about tomatoes and bread? But, but
And
yeah.
they used to eat a lot of, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think they used to eat a lot of scones,
Yeah, you
SCONES.
pronouncing it right. Scones, yeah.
Yeah, and when I first ate it, I was just like, this is not what
It
I
was very
imagined, and this is,
disappointing.
I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. All the
Yeah.
food, well, British food in general is disappointing, but all the food she brought up was so, so bad. Just like
But I mean, the
nougat,
midnight
I think,
feast had decent
yeah,
food.
sardines and
Except
condensed
I
milk.
don't know if I like dimmed sardines.
I liked it, sardines. I'm a
Okay.
fan.
Well, yeah, fair enough. I
Yeah,
only like river water fresh fish.
of course. But condensed milk was a huge thing for them in the midnight feast.
Yeah,
Do you remember?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
love
And
condensed.
the cake also just seemed like
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
Always
yeah.
like the description.
I know. Yeah, yeah. The sweets were good. Yeah.
Anyways, I think we're done. Thank you so much for speaking to me about
Thank you.
this.
This was so much fun, and you made me remember a lot more than I did. Oh, good and bad stuff.